Welcome to iSet Robotics into Gear on your mark. This is the first unit of this MOOC, and its aim is to familiarize you with the LEGO Robotics EV3 Mindstorm kit that you're going to use throughout this MOOC. My name is Tanya Karp and I am one of the instructors of this MOOC, and I hope that we're going to have a good time together. In this learning unit, we will take a look at the inventory and the building. Basically, we will talk about what is in your robotics kit and how to use it. So we'll first look at the hardware and inventory all the pieces of your robotics kit. We'll then have a look at the vocabulary. Like every other profession, robotics requires a specialized vocabulary, and all the items and components in your kit have a name that you want your learners to refer to. We'll then go over building instructions and how these work and what information is important. Typically, the building instructions are all visual, they're all pictures, and we also go over what can be learned by building according to instructions. Then we'll give you some tips on classroom management and teamwork, and we'll also provide you with a list of useful resources that you might want to refer to in addition to this lecture. Now let's talk about hardware and the inventory of your kits. As you know, we're going to use the Mindstorm's EV3 kits, and the hope is that by now each of you has one of these kits, either the education course set, which you see on the left, or the home edition. In the following, we assume that you have the education course set, and if you're still considering buying a kit, that's the one I would recommend to buy. It comes in a nice plastic bin, and let's see what we'll find inside that bin. Now, what makes this kit a robotics kit are basically the included electronics. We do have the EV3 brick, which you see in the center of this slide, and in its back it's powered by a rechargeable battery that you typically should keep inside the brick and not remove too often, because there are springs that connect the battery to the EV3 kit that tend to wear out or break if you remove the battery too often. On the top of the EV3 brick, you see two large motors connected to the brick and a medium motor. Those are the outputs through which the robot can perform actions. On the bottom of the brick, the sensors are connected. In this particular case, if we start from the very bottom, there's a touch sensor, followed by a gyro sensor, a color sensor, and finally an ultrasonic sensor. So you should see all these sensors, the connector cables, and actually a second touch sensor, and the motors inside your kit. You also should have a charger for the rechargeable battery. Now, when you look at the back of the cardboard cover of the box, you should see this type of picture. What you need to realize is that this picture actually represents the top tray of your box, the red top tray, and it provides you with guidelines of which piece should go into which tray. Now, if you have bought a brand new robotics kit, then all your pieces are still inside plastic bags, and one of the first tasks that you need to perform is to open those plastic bags and sort the pieces into the trays according to this sorting instruction set. If you loaned a LEGO robotics kit from somebody, or you have a kit that has already been used, then most likely it's not sorted, And again, the first task that you need to perform is to dump all the pieces into the bin or on a tray and sort them and inventory them according to these instructions. So you see there is a compartment on the tray for straight beams, there's a compartment for angled beams, there are several boxes for connector packs, a bigger one for gears, one for frames, and all these special items that come with your kit. If we take a look at the compartment containing all the axles a little bit more carefully, then you see what details are provided. First of all, you can notice that there are several axles that come with your kit and that they do come in different colors. According to this guide here, the shortest axle is red and all the other axles are either gray or black. Please note that some of these axles, if you have a kit that's mixed up from other kits, might not have the same color, but in a brand new kit, the gray axles are gray and the black axles are black. Now, to the right side of each of the gray and black axle, you see a number, a blue number in a black circle, and that number describes the length of the axle. So an axle of length 4 means that if you place that axle on top of a straight beam, that axle would cover 4 holes of that straight beam. Similarly, an axle of length 8 would cover 8 holes, and on this 1-to-1 scale picture that you see on the right half of the slide, you see a length 12 axle that covers 12 holes of the 15 module straight beam with 15 holes underneath. By the way, on the bottom of the tray you also have that 1-to-1 scale picture on a cardboard, and that picture can be used for you to figure out what size a particular axle is. I recommend just take a straight beam and measure how many holes the axle covers. Finally, below each axle on the left, you see how many times you should have that axle. Like for the axle of size 10, you should have 2 of them. The axle of length 6, you should find 4 of them in your kit. So not only do you need to sort your kit according to the tray instructions, but you also need to inventory it and see if you actually do have all the pieces that the kit comes with. Each profession has its own vocabulary, and so does robotics, and it's important that you acquire that vocabulary and express yourself in a knowledgeable way whenever it comes to talking about the different pieces inside your robotics kit. Now, the Lego Elements Survey is a PDF file that you can download from Lego Education, and it contains all the elements from the EV3 core set. It's a 6-page document, and you can learn all the element names. On this first page that I've shown here on the slide, you see that there are bushings and connector packs and axles and pointers and a T-beam. And really you and your learners need to get into a habit of using the correct names. Now, my recommendation is that you take this PDF document and make a printout that you either hang onto the wall of your classroom such that you and your learners can walk up to the printout and take a look at the names in case you forgot those names, or that you provide each group of learners with a printed set of this document, maybe laminated such that it lasts longer, and keep that document inside the box as part of the kit. So keep in mind, there are no thingies in your box. You each time need to use the correct name. It's a little tedious at the beginning, the lengthy process of learning all these names, but like with foreign languages, you just need to learn that vocabulary because it helps you to quicker ask for items and also to express yourself knowledgeable when it comes to explaining the design of your robot to somebody else. So after you've sorted and inventoried your kit and hopefully in the process have learned some of the names of the pieces inside the kit, the first activity that you typically perform is to build a robot according to building instructions. So I've listed a couple of popular robots with motorized wheels here on this slide. There is the Robot Educator driving base. That basically is the robot described in the instruction booklet that comes with the EV3 core set, or if you don't have the hard copy of that instruction booklet anymore, you can also download a PDF file from it. That robot takes about 30 minutes to 1 hour to build. Another very popular robot is the Riley Rover. It is easy and fast to build, so more in the order of 10 to 20 minutes and for the base robot, and it also has several attachments and instructions for those attachments to build. The SteveBot is another robot that comes with a motorized attachment, and there are many more building instructions that can be found on the internet. I've just provided one link here, but search the web and see what other sets of building instructions you can find and go ahead and build some of these robots. Now, the building instructions are typically set up by steps. We here see step 3 of the Robot Educator driving base, and in each step on the top left you see a box that describes all the different pieces you need for that building step. So here for step 3 we need a black 4-module axle, we need a red 2-module bushing or an axle extender, and we need a blue 2-module connector pack with friction on one end and an axle on the other end. Then you see how you take the axle and the axle extender and connect them to each other, and how to connect those to the piece that you've previously built in steps 1 and 2. If we look at step 22 here, you see that you need a frame, a 5x11 module frame, but you also see that blue symbol with the 2 blue arrows, and that one tells you that you should take what you've built so far up to step 21 and place it upside down and then continue from the bottom. Now, why would you or your learners build a robot according to instructions, and what is there to be learned from building according to instructions? Well, first of all, you learned 3D thinking. In each of the different steps, you only have a 2-dimensional set of instructions to build a 3-dimensional item, and particularly with younger learners, it takes them a long time to turn what they've built, their building product, really in the direction that it's shown in the instructions. You will see that following the instructions carefully is important. Oftentimes it happens that minor mistakes occur and you don't find these mistakes until many steps later, and then you have to go back and you have to take your robot apart and start from that particular point where you made that mistake. So by carefully following instructions, you get to the desired result the quickest way. Now also during the activity you can practice acquiring the vocabulary, because you need to take different pieces out for each step, and you should ask yourself for each of those pieces what their name is. And if you don't remember the name, pause for a moment, look up the name, share it with your group, and try to remember the name. Then there's problem solving relating to you've made a mistake at some point and now it doesn't work and you cannot put put pieces together or follow the instructions the way you are supposed to. So you need to find out at what particular point you made that mistake. Finally, designing robots is typically a teamwork activity. So in a team, you need to keep everybody involved and you need to have a strategy on who does what in the building process and how to rotate roles and how to keep everybody involved. So after you've built the first couple of robots yourself and have gained some experience with the robotics kit, then you should think about what to expect from the first session in which you mentor learners in robotics, and would like to provide you with some tips with respect to classroom management and teamwork. So first of all, you need to instill a desire among your learners to take care of their robotics kit. You don't want all the effort of inventorying and sorting a kit go into a scenario that looks like on this picture at the end of the session. You need to have your learners take ownership of their robotics kit, maybe have them sort the kit themselves such that they know how much effort it is, because there really is no fun with incomplete kits. It happens all the time that a group of learners comes with a box and then they're building a robot according to instructions, and they'll tell you that they don't have a certain piece that they need from the instructions, and it's actually just hiding somewhere in the mess. Also keep in mind that you need to allocate in your mentoring session enough time for cleanup. If you let your learners build and design until the end of the session, then nobody will take care of sorting additional extra items back into the trays, and they will just dump everything quickly in the box, and it won't be any fun on the next meeting. So allocate enough space for the Lego box, a laptop, and a building area for each of your kids and teams. Make sure you have your teams work either on trays or on lids. If they do it like you can see here, it keeps pieces from falling on the ground, and they can just have this lid as their working area where the the Lego items are. At the end of each session, you need to check the floor for additional pieces. I always say, like, the vacuum cleaner doesn't like sucking up too many Lego pieces, and once it has, they're gone. Make sure your learners keep their boxes sorted, and you also need to clean and inventory your kits regularly. The constructional items, the plastic Lego items, are washable, and your team should inventory at least at the end of your robotics class, however many weeks that is. Now, you want to make sure that your learners take ownership of their kit and that they are motivated to keep their kit sorted and complete, because otherwise it's an endless chore for you and it's not a very gratifying task. Now you also need to take care of your EV3 brick. First of all, keep the rechargeable battery inside the EV3 brick, I've mentioned that before, and charge the battery before each class time. There's something called the firmware, that is basically the operating system of the software of the EV3 brick that needs to be updated every now and then. Also, if the brick has been in use by learners for a couple of weeks, there will be a list of old projects and files that are stored on the memory, and that list just makes it hard to find the new program and project that your learners just downloaded onto the robot. So remove the old project files regularly, and also make sure that when you connect wires to the ports that you do this carefully and learn how to troubleshoot. Your EV3 brick doesn't always behave as it should, and if you run into a scenario where your EV3 brick is not responding anymore, you either go and refer to the LEGO user guide, or you go to the link on the bottom of the page where you find instructions for troubleshooting that should allow your EV3 brick to become operational again. Sometimes you need to follow these instructions several times until you are successful. Now, your learners need to work in a team on each of the robotics kits, not only because the kit is expensive and you have typically more learners than you have robotics kits, but getting along as a team and being successful as a team is an important skill for everybody to learn, and don't take it for granted. Teamwork is not always easy. So you need to keep an eye on your groups and ensure that everybody stays involved. And you might also need to assist your teams with choosing roles of the different team members and making sure that everybody gets a task, that everybody's listened to and treated politely. If we go back to the building according to instructions examples that we've seen previously, you could take your group and divide them into different subgroups, where the first subgroup is in charge for picking the pieces that are required for one building step and also naming them. Then the second subgroup gets those pieces passed along and they build according to the instructions, again while naming each of the pieces. And a third subgroup would inspect the result. They would take the product from the building step and place it in front of them exactly like it's shown in the instructions, and then they will verify that the product is correct. And then as you go on to the next building step, you rotate the rules and everybody thus gets to do each of these tasks and stays involved. Now here are a couple of useful resources that you might want to refer to during this week. First of all, there are a couple of LEGO Mindstorm's EV3 guides that contain really a lot of important and good information. These are PDF documents. There's the general EV3 user guide that talks about all the components inside the kit. There's the element survey that I referred to before, telling you the names of all the elements in the kit. There's the sorting guide for the top tray and the bottom tray. And there also is a link on the bottom here, the EV3 Quick Start Guide. Those are recommendations from LEGO Education on 5 steps that you should perform to get started in robotics. And finally, there's a link to the LEGO Education software. You need to download this software in order to program your robot. And then I'd like to point out 2 YouTube videos to you done by Darren Wilson. Darren Wilson at the time was a technology instructor at Guthrie School, and he created these videos when the EV3 kit was brand new. The first one is called What's in the Box? You ordered your robotics kit, the box arrives. Now what? So that one is fun to watch. And then he has designed the Steve bot, and he guides you through the design of the Steve bot in another video.